I have never been a very big fan of fighting games, honestly for the simple reason that I'm not good at them. I am easily discouraged by people being so much better than me. I have bought almost every major fighting game at release just to trade them back in or give them away because I couldn't compete against others who were clearly better. I still enjoy watching people play fighting games, however. I follow the Evolution Fighting Tournament and will admit that I am jealous I can't compete even half the level that most of them do. I'm sure there is a lot of people out there who feel similar. A lot of us would love to experience the type of hype a last-second kill for the win gives the incredibly skilled fighter. Well, DiveKick is here to deliver hype to players of all skill. For those of you who don't know DiveKick, here's some background. Adam Hart, a well-known personality in the fighting game community, created a small game with some friends. They called it DiveKick because in the game you could only fight using two buttons, one to jump, dive, and the other to kick. It was meant as a joke originally, but once they started showing the game around, people demanded the game see a proper release. So Adam did what any indie developer would do these days. He opened up a Kickstarter with the initial goal of $30,000. And just as the Kickstarter reached its goal, Adam canceled the Kickstarter, citing that the game had been picked up by a publisher. Anyone who gave money was given a refund, but those who earned certain rewards like t-shirts or being able to design a character in the game were still given an opportunity. The new publisher was Iron Galaxy Studios, who had mostly done small projects for larger companies, porting Back to the Future on the Wii, developing Marvel vs. Capcom Origins, and plenty of other projects. The game made its rounds at PAX and EVO, generating quite a bit of buzz. I myself came across the game at Chicago Comic-Con, and the game had a real draw to it. Even though the con's focus was far from gaming, the amount of hype being generated from the booth was palpable. So why is DiveKick such an alluring game? Well, for someone like me who isn't very good at fighting games, it delivers a much more simplified experience where everything feels incredibly fair. One fighter is not drastically overpowered or overused, and players' ability to use combos or fancy attacks falls null and void in this game. DiveKick does for fighting games what the Endless Runner did for platforming games. You take the very core of the experience in the game and strip it down to its simplest form, to where anyone can understand immediately. DiveKick is, very simply put, a fighting game with two buttons. All movement is done by jumping and kicking. Diving, then kicking will move you closer to your opponent, whereas just hitting the kick button lets you step back, depending on your character. Although there is a health bar, it is more there as a joke, as any hit is an instant kill. The first to get 5 kills is the winner. Of course, a game where everyone just jumps and kicks would be a little boring. There are 13 characters, each with a unique property, and 2 special moves that are activated by pressing both dive and kick at the same time, either in the air or on the ground. Examples of this are Kick's ability to kick downward incredibly fast, or S-Kill's ability to parry your attack while he's on the ground. These special moves draw from the kick meter, and when the kick meter fills, it activates the kick factor, a nod to Marvel vs. Capcom's X Factor, where players move much faster, jump much higher, and sometimes have invincibility. As far as character differences go, they vary from simple, dive can jump higher, kick can kick faster, to a little more complicated. Mr. N has a neck pillow that keeps him safe from getting staggered by headshots, to Uncle Sensei, who is doing attacks from a handstand position. Learning the simple differences with every character is imperative to becoming good at the game. The game at its core is a parody, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, though most jokes may be lost on those who aren't into the fighting game community. References to salt, getting ganked, or fraud will probably go right over the heads of some players, but to those who are into the community, there is a lot of love. There are a lot of references to other fighting games or even actual people in the fighting game community. For example, there's a character named Jafali who is based on fighting game event organizer Alex Jabali, who contributed to the Kickstarter to have a character with his likeness. Similarly, Markman uses the infamous 2-button controller and is a fictionalized version of Mad Catz community and sponsorship manager Mark Julio. Many other references can be found, but finding the meaning for yourself is part of the fun. So, how is the game? Well, it's good. It's incredibly simple, which allows it to be picked up easily by anyone, but there is still a pretty strong learning curve in being good at the game. Now, skill is almost completely based around timing and awareness of each character's ability. Every character is balanced and different enough to make you want to experiment. A few characters are a bit harder to master, but once you do, they can be the most fun to use. This is not the game that will make you feel like you are good at fighting games. Skill is still required, but complicated attack chains are non-existent, which seems to be something that pushes people away from most normal fighting games. There is a story mode where you fight AIs and learn the backstories of each character, most of which is a huge nod to Street Fighter storytelling with stills and text that gives some motivation for these people who are fighting. There is a local multiplayer mode which, on the Vita, is super interesting because 2 people can actually play at once on the same Vita. It's a little difficult, but still a super cool feature. The mode people will get the most play out of course, is the online multiplayer, which while I was playing worked incredibly well. I never experienced any sort of lag on the PC, PS3, or even the Vita, and since DiveKick uses the GGPO format, good game peace out, new challengers are always easy to find. This is very important since most matches only take about 2 to 3 minutes to finish. The game is only $9.99, which is a fair price for a parody game with a lot of depth. It's available for the PC after a successful Greenlight campaign. It's also available as a cross-buy title on the PS3 and Vita, which is really great, especially given how well the game runs on the Vita, and how you can play all the same people, Vita or PS3, and it all goes on the same record. DiveKick is a very interesting game, one I recommend to any fighting game fan or someone who is interested in fighting games but finds them difficult to master.
Iteration limit! Wins! Yo!